morning, Ambassador. Good morning, Mr. Shirata. It's a pleasure to see both of you. I am Dr. Joanne Murphy, Director of Programs with Intergovernmental and Non-Governmental Organizations for Fairleigh Dickinson University and the Office of Global Learning. I would like to say welcome to our friends from Lehigh University and Dr. Bill Hunter. A special welcome to our Vancouver campus, their first time joining us for our series of video conferences, the beginning of a continuation we are expecting. I would also like to say greetings to Dr. Rafaelides at the Metro campus and our students there. Today we're really excited to have Mr. Shirata here. He is the Executive Director of Friendship Ambassadors Foundation and a very close friend of Fairleigh Dickinson University and the Office of Global Learning. I'm sure he will speak to you about this in greater detail, but we recently signed a memorandum of understanding with the Friendship Ambassadors Foundation, and we're looking forward to doing some substantive work in the arena of youth involvement with United Nations. So without further ado, Ambassador Kamal, I'll turn over to you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to have Mr. Shirata with us because of all the work that he has been doing for youth at the United Nations. This is a person who has a background in the arts and in the theater, has been a teacher, has been involved with the annual Youth Assembly for, 200 years, despite his youthful looks, and is therefore a trendsetter among the United Nations mafia. That being said, with his permission and with yours, let me lead into the subject myself. We are talking about an important segment of international society. Except for some developed countries which are aging, the United States is among them, Europe is among them, but the majority of the world is developing countries, and the developing countries, by and large, is more than 50% youth below the age of 25. And so the vast majority of the population of the world, the vast majority, is youth below the age of 25. So this is not a minor subject that we are dealing with. Nevertheless, the United Nations has been significantly deficient in understanding the importance of youth. One reason, of course, is that it is so busy handling crises, whether these are crises of the humanitarian type, which is Chile and Haiti, etc., whether these are crises of the security type, which is 9/11 terrorism and its consequences, whether it is crises of the environmental type, which is global warming and its consequences. The UN has a lot on its plate other than youth, and therefore gets blinkered when it is considering the crises and not looking at youth, which really represents the future. A second symbol of the deficiency of the United Nations in looking at youth is the age structure of the Secretariat staff. The Secretariat staff has an average age of close to 50 years. Average is 50. And less than 5% of the United Nations Secretariat is below the age of 35. 5% below the age of 35. And obviously that is wrong. And for the past 10 years or more, some of us have been pushing the Secretary General that you cannot go into the new century unless you rejuvenate the thinking process of the United Nations Secretariat. And you cannot rejuvenate if your average age is 50 plus. And therefore we need to bring in more young people into the United Nations. Now, obviously, the older people in the UN have a vested interest in not allowing the youth to come in, because the youth is smarter than the older people and will soon see the older people out. So we have a problem in the thinking process and Secretariat of the UN. So now we have two problems. We have inadequate attention being paid and inadequate structural adjustment to youth. And that is where Mr. Shirata comes in, because this is a person who has been conducting a jihad in favor of youth for the past 10 years or more. And the whole objective of his exercise is to bring home to us, the old fogies in the UN, that this won't do, that a United Nations, in order to be relevant to the world of tomorrow, has to be more attuned to the problems and thinking process of youth. It's a great effort, but I'm not sure as to whether it is succeeding or not. So the question that I want to ask Mr. Shirata is, you've been dealing with this subject for a fair amount of time. Where have you reached? Are you getting anywhere, or are you on a losing streak? And if you are on a winning streak, what makes you think that you are convincing people like me who have no interest in youth to be interested in youth?
First of all, thank you so much for the invitation to be here, Ambassador Kamal and Dr. Murphy and our friends at Fairleigh Dickinson, Lehigh, Vancouver, and elsewhere. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak with you all today. I don't know if I'm really conducting a jihad or am involved in the mafia. It's difficult, me being Sicilian. I'm just worried about people getting the wrong idea. But since I came to the United Nations in 2002 to begin our work here with Friendship Ambassadors Foundation, it became quite clear that youth were not represented in the numbers that I would have thought they would have been. My own work in the arts has taken me around the world as a playwright, as a theater performer in my younger years, and as a director of the Bond Street Theater Coalition in New York, which is also associated formally with the United Nations and has done amazing work using theater in developing regions such as Afghanistan during the last several years, 6 times, and also work in Myanmar currently, and in Pakistan and India as well. So I guess I came to the United Nations through the arts, through working internationally, and because of that, meeting many young people. I've also taught for many years at SUNY Purchase, at Purchase College of the State University of New York, and also at Hunter College, where I was director for the performing arts. So I've worked often with young people, and when I came here in 2002, it was because our foundation had a relationship with both the then Secretary General Kofi Annan, who we brought here as part of a travel program, bringing him on his first trip to the United States to Macalester College, when we were the Ambassadors of Friendship, a project of Reader's Digest. And we also had worked with one of the Undersecretary Generals, a good friend Shashi Tharoor, in India as well. So we came knowing some people. There was at that time an NGO relationship person at the Secretary General office, and it began a long, wonderful friendship with a woman named Gillian Sorensen, who has spoken often on behalf of UN issues, and she and others led me to join a number of committees. One that was most profound for me, and I believe my own work with young people, was helping to plan the